There you go.
I don't know why you couldn't, as long as it was on like speakerphone. I mean, that would be the key. It's somebody, it'd have to be a set time, and then the public would have to be able to hear interaction.
Thank you.
All right. I call this 8:04 meeting of the County Commission. That was kind of loud. Please, everybody join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now that we're all awake, everybody wake.
Is the glass unbroken yet?
Well, I used a different, I pulled out the wrong coaster there for that. My bad. Well, good morning.
Morning. So rude.
Who needs coffee when we got a gavel? Okay. Here we are, Thursday morning. We'll move to some public comments this morning. Anybody from the public? Anybody on Zoom? Anybody? Okay, seeing none, we'll close off public comment and move on to commissioner comments. Commissioner McKinley.
All right. On Monday, I attended the Randolph Seniors Lunch, updated them on several things we're working on. Their biggest question was the funding for senior meals. Sent letters to us. They say received the same amount since there were 8 attending until now, when they averaged 22, except the letter says it's 24. They slid in a letter that I copied to you. They were told by the Council on Aging that we have not increased their funding. And I told them, I asked last year, can we designate funding for different things? Says, no, we can only do it for the whole group. We can't designate how the Council on Aging spends their money. And they said, well, and they told us we were the ones that didn't give them any money, seniors any money. So they're supposed to be meeting with the Council on Aging this or next week for their money. But yeah, like I said,
We could increase their funding and they could still not get anything out of that. They could allocate it to something else.
I'd say that's what I talked to Clancy last year. Can we tell them we want to fund these and not those? And he said, no, we can't. We just give them a lump sum.
Well, I talked to Julie
Is that
a couple months ago. She was saying that we were required to give them 1% or 1 mill levy for the year. I don't know if that's.
To my knowledge, it's not even statutorily required to do anything, is it?
There was the levy limit. Several organizations used to have levy requirements decades ago. The legislature did away with levy limit requirements decades ago.
Okay.
But a lot of people still remember that's what it used to be. And they're right. That is what it used to be.
Oh, okay. So that's okay. Well, that may come up in the country.
Yeah,
We do a contract.
Okay, but I'll be here.
Right?
you can. Well, you have on some. You have contracts with a couple of agencies that are discretionary funding. If it's truly completely discretionary, for example, in the past, you had a contract with the local Chamber of Commerce. For a while, the board tried that. I don't know, 2-3 years, and what was driving that was to be aware of what expenditures of those funds were being made by the chamber outside the city of Manhattan, to make sure that the unincorporated area was getting some kind of benefit. That didn't last very long for whatever reason. But you could, if it's totally discretionary, there's nothing to stop you from making discretionary funding dependent on a written agreement. You could do that. I'm not cheerleading for it. I'm just saying it's an option.
Yeah. Good to know. And that's all I had this week.
Commissioner Clayton.
Good with this. Okay, let's see. Wednesday, I attended the Military Relations Committee meeting at the Hilton Conference Center. It's the first time we've met there. And so they had a good lunch. And after lunch, the guest speaker was Jace Rappert, congressional staffer for Senator Moran. He spoke on the low recruitment numbers and presented statistics and issues around funding and programs. He emphasized that they don't want a hollow army, and they're looking not only for new recruits, but development of new capabilities. He had a rather a large presentation on all this with a lot of numbers.
Jason's pretty sharp.
Yeah. Next speaker was Mr. Jankowicz, who spoke about the AUSA, their history and mission to support military members and their families. And AUSA has 1.6 million members that, yay, that support the programs for service members and veterans. Then after the luncheon, I attended the Westlake Business Association meeting at Rock and Cays. Took me some time to figure out to get there because all the roads are closed. I had to go all the way around and go back in that agricultural.
Back to the back.
Back to the backside. It was just like, first I started this way. I had to go
It's
all the way.
construction season.
So I was a little late getting there, but finally found my way back in, but I missed the opening remarks. Ron Fear was there and gave a farewell address prior to his retirement. He spoke about the many of the projects that they had accomplished over the years he was there and those that are upcoming in the works. And after he spoke, various people, including myself, gave updates on businesses and activities. Then after the meeting, I went home, changed clothes, went to PT, and then downtown to Bell Choir practice. So that was pretty much the week. So,
Well, as for me, Monday afternoon, I met with Darren Solden, George Cant, and Allison Muth at the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce to discuss some remote workforce retention ideas in regard to our previous dialogue with the company Make My Move. Had a really good dialogue, actually. Looks as if maybe both the university and maybe the State Department of Commerce may be on board with this to some degree as well. They're going to be meeting with both entities and we'll be drafting some kind of a plan. Still kind of primitive at this point in time, but there'll be some more dialogue about that moving forward. Don't know what it'll look like, but just a conversation nonetheless. So also Monday, I just wanted to mention we did have a special meeting deal with a cybersecurity incident. And I just wanted to say thanks to everybody, including both of you, that were able to move your schedules around quickly to make that happen. It's not always an easy thing to do. And for everybody else who attended as well, to just work through the important details that were associated with the event. It's kind of needed at that particular point in time. So we'll be discussing the furthering the emergency declaration for that moving forward. So, and it's interesting because we're going to mention two other things this morning, but both occurring in Jackson County, Missouri, but they had an incident. Their registered deeds and tax and payroll system went down with the cybersecurity incident, and they had to do something similar. So I don't know if there's just a focus on this area and region all of a sudden or what, but it happened someplace else too. And I guess the other news out of Jackson County, Missouri is their 3/8 sales tax extension. It's not a new sales tax. Failed, and it failed miserably. And that was the sales tax that funds the Jackson County Sports Authority, which in turn funds the Kansas City Royals and the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's going to be really interesting to see where that dialogue goes because that lease runs out in the next 6 years. So, and it was pretty close to 60%. So, yeah. So that's going to be an interesting to see what happens there moving forward. So, and then for me, the rest of the week has just been focused on some work related things as this April timeframe tends to be busy. We got a lot of reviews and specific audits that we do this time of the year, and it gets a little hectic with that. So, and that's all I've got.
Ready for business, commissioners?
One thing I did came out of our special meeting was the news has covered it pretty straight. You know, they've got the story straight, which
No one blew it out of proportion.
yeah,
No one blew it out of proportion.
right. They just reported it without getting too out of proportion about it, just saying the problem, we're working on it. Glad to hear that.
Yep. Ready for business, commissioners?
Yeah.
First item I have, I need a motion to accept the bid submitted by Schilling Construction Company Inc. of Manhattan, Kansas for the 2024 asphalt overlay program in the amount of $1,602,010.
I would make a motion to approve the bid from Schilling Construction Company in the amount of $1,602,010 for the asphalt overlay program.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the bid from Schilling Construction in the amount of $1,600,000 to $2,010 for the asphalt overlay program. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, Commissioners, I have Riley County Employee Action Forms, Sarah Dorson as needed clerical assistant, Planning Development Department Separation Service, Chelsea Buncher, new hire, Facilities and Ground Tech 1, Public Works Department, Samuel Switzer, new hire, Facilities and Ground Tech 1, Public Works, and then Angela McKinley, a new hire, Custodian, Public Works. All three, please sign.
No relative. I don't
I was gonna actually ask that.
know. I don't know.
So someone else asked me that too.
We got rid of a lot of the pins there. And now we just gotta add
got rid
one.
of the Greg mix. Well, that's the only, other than some, one of one of the couple here. And I've talked to, we're not related, at least probably 10 generations back.
Yeah, the one that works for one of the engineering firms or something.
Yeah, and his wife works for invest for one of the investment places.
That place in college here in town, I managed the kitchen there for a while. We had 3 John Fords.
Not kidding. Oh, this poor world.
I know. Fortunately, everybody just called me boss. So that narrowed it down to the other two, and I don't remember how they distinguished themselves.
Son class in grade school had 5 Andrews, Grews and Andrews and Andy. They all kind of a little different, but they're all
That's a lot.
And then my youngest daughter, there were 4 Ashleys in that class.
One time in our office, I had 2 Cindy's, 3 Susies or Susans.
We still got a couple of shells.
Yeah, I do have a couple Michelle's.
Got us here right on the back end of that first one.
And who would have ever thought, my first election person was a Jolene, and then the second election person I had was a Jolene.
Oh, goodness.
That's not a very common name.
No, it isn't.
You commissioners, next I need a motion to approve payroll and accounts payable.
Make a motion to approve payroll and accounts payable.
I would second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve payroll and accounts payable. All in favor?
Aye.
All three, please sign.
Place I worked in Leavenworth, one of the owners was Greg. And our bookkeeper, her husband's name was Greg. We had an open book project manager, and got applications in, and one of them was a Greg, and she refused to forward the application to anybody. She said, there's too many here already.
These were that spelled differently, like maybe with 2 G's or 1 G? No.
Are Greg's a protected class? I mean, is that illegal?
Pretty safe, huh?
Oh,
Just be an embarrassing one to defend. It's not illegal.
Playing Jennifer Graham, his name's Greg.
Just three. Three, you know, that's maybe. Two steps, the other one.
There's like 4 or 5.
Yeah,
You get the tab on the bottom too.
yeah, I got that one, but I didn't get these two that were.
Yeah, there's like close together there.
Yeah. Any changes to the minutes, commissioners, of April 1?
Which April 1?
Sorry, good point. I guess the first one that's order was the second one we had, which is at 4:30 p.m.
Okay. No,
Yeah,
you do
I
have to
don't-
do them separately too.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I'd make a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of County Commissioners from April 1st, 2024,
At the time.
Special meeting.
the regular meeting.
Oh, regular meeting. Okay, I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of April 1st, 2024, the Riley County Commission as written. All in favor?
I move to approve the minutes of the special meeting on April 1st.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as written from the April 1st special meeting of the Riley County Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
The tentative agendas look, commissioners.
Good.
Any items for next week's press conference?
No, I think so.
As the commissioners know, I do have to leave at around 10:45 today to sit on a round table for clerk certification school that's going on in town. So.
Okay.
Next, commissioners, you have Mr. Holman at 9.
Since we have a little break, I have something I'd like to discuss with the two of you. As I'm looking around as we were looking at the replacement windows going on and rest of the building, I would like to see maybe getting a bid on all the windows in this building, since we're going to be using it and repurposing it, and see where we might be able to. Well, we're we're redoing the fourth floor for $500,000, and then fire people are going to be moving, and we may have some space open up there, but I know it'll
We
be
haven't
expensive.
Officially made a plan on it yet, which windows would definitely be part of that, but
But they're not going to get any cheaper, and it'd be good to at least have a bid on it to see where we're in.
Oh, but I think that's part of that whole retreat,
Yeah.
talk about facilities.
Mhm.
I mean, I would think that'd be part of our discussion then.
that's kind of what I'm
Facilities.
Because I mean,
Well, you look around the building and all the windows are real terrible shapes. So,
I don't. I would be kind of curious, to be honest with you.
And just getting a bid, it gives you, at least whenever you do decide to plan, and even after the retreat, it gives you an idea of maybe one of your first steps, I mean, like I said, on all of the buildings, if we're going to repurpose them, the first thing is all of that have been in construction, first thing you got to protect the roof.
Yeah.
Everything below there has to be protected. These windows, Catherine has talked about, the air infiltration in here and stuff. We were actually temporarily housed there when they did our renovation over there on the second floor where GIS and rural fire are. And at that time, windows were rattling and you always constantly got fresh air. The air circulation was good. And so, we had looked at it before. Leon Hobson and Monty Weedle and myself as budget planning committee spent a lot of time reviewing it, trying to get tax credits for it, historical tax credits. And Monty in particular got extremely frustrated in Leon because it is such a process, so much red tape to go through to get that. As I know the owner that did this building over here, and he had a nightmare getting that money. He had to spend attorney fees to get the monies of the tax credits he was told he would.
And you don't necessarily always get 100% of the total if they tell you either.
But the thing is, I was discussing with Catherine, I kind of thought we would go down this road at some point in time because I think the commission will see those new windows that we put in there and they'll go, oh my, those others are in really bad shape.
Rather than hard bid, is Who's doing the windows?
Man, we're getting them from Manco, so
Well, not even a bid, just ask them to get a,
Mhm.
a rough estimate, give them, rather than a hard bid, just say, can you give us? Because if they've done those, they can kind of count and look at the sizes and give us a rough estimate.
Mhm.
That would be a good.
So we
idea.
we could get that to John, and I'm sure it's something he could work on because John's thought of it as well. I talked to John about it, and we could just get a, estimate on, what it would
Budget
cost.
estimate from.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just get an idea, and I know it's gonna be real expensive, but it's probably.
Well, it gives you an idea after that discussion on maybe that's one of the first things you do through CIP, or
Get some numbers on it.
the commission okay with getting a budget estimate for
Yeah.
windows for the CPE? Okay. Well,
Well, I mean, if we're gonna just do this building, I mean, we're gonna have to do windows throughout. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just get the whole thing. I mean, we're gonna have to replace windows in the building next door too.
how about we find out from John? I mean, I think him and his staff would have an idea of which
Okay.
facilities are most in need of that.
Okay.
As far as Carnegie Courthouse, our building.
I'm saying, if we're gonna get a workable bid on that, we should get a workable bid for everything that we have down here if necessary. Makes no sense then, because if we're gonna end up using this building, and I'm not saying we are or aren't,
Mhm.
Well, even if we sell it, that's,
Yeah, it's a benefit.
or whatever,
I'm sure they can work up a bid, for this building, for that building, for that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
While they're here and. I just thought I'd bring that up because I looked around the other day, I was looking at windows, and I walked around the building, I went, oh my goodness. Terrible, especially ones on was probably.
Oh, it'll be enhanced once you see those new ones right above
Yeah.
the older ones. You'll be like, oh.
Speaking of, is there have they done any assessment on the roof up there yet?
Yeah, they're scheduled to be replaced in May.
The roof. You were talking about the roof.
Yeah,
Oh.
in May. Mhm. That's all we've
Just for
got.
that- But just for that piece.
I believe, I do not know 100% for sure. I believe it's just for that section over there.
I'm just speak here, but that'd probably be the worst part of it. It's bad. So,
Yeah. It's just, we've got to take care of our properties. It's just too bad it's gotten this bad.
We've had several different ideas of what to do and then just have it panned out. I guess while we still have some time too, we did get an email from Kevin and Riley there. Were we discussing something about changing speed limits there at that?
That was at the east end. I don't know what he was talking about reducing the speed limit, but Kevin's on the west end.
Okay.
I
was trying to
He lives on the.
Oh, so he was concerned with the west end? Okay.
Well, I think he's probably on both of them, but the one he's, like I say, he's on the west side. And that's,
Mhm.
I figured you would know, is the spot he talking about, is that in the county boundary or the urban boundary there?
well, it's where the Kansas is a county road all the way through. Natalie.
Okay. I didn't know specifically where he was talking.
But there's, it's within the city limits there when
Okay.
people coming in from the west evidently, where it's probably 55, I guess, out there.
Isn't that Riley Avenue?
Hmm.
The name of the street? What's the name?
Kansas.
Kansas. Gotcha. Sorry.
I don't think it's a bad idea.
That was 24 at one time,
Mhm.
before they expanded the fort.
Yeah. And that's back, there's been a little bit of development back there, so it's a little bit more dense back there too. Recent years, it's probably not a bad idea.
It's not as busy as road as Keats Road, but
Yeah, that really
East-
just
the
slowed
east side
down.
is
when
more-
Keats-
the east side is more, has a lot more traffic than the west side, I think.
I figured you would know. For obvious reasons.
But I know Kevin, yeah.
Well, good news on the K-State basketball front.
How?
We got ourselves a point guard.
Yep, got a transfer from Michigan.
Probably the highest rated transfer we've gotten in quite some time.
Really had not heard.
And we're trying to get the other big guy from Michigan there too, I guess.
Yes.
Well, that was an article I read on him, and I didn't see where we were listed as one of his top 5 schools.
Oh, okay, maybe not. Well, we got the other.
So I wondered if we wouldn't go after him, and we were not listed on there.
I know.
But that doesn't mean they're not working behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, might be in pretty good shape if we don't have anybody else transfer at this point in time. Okay, Clancy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Clancy Holman, Rowan County Counselor. I have in front of you, of course, a request to fill a commission agenda report, requesting to fill an upcoming vacancy, Deputy County Counselor position. The description that you see in there, I believe is accurate in terms of the duties. We do have a little bit of a compressed time frame, even more so to actually fill the position. There was a miscommunication about the actual final date at the time this was put together. So instead of April 30th, this position is going to become vacant on April 19th. So there wasn't time to make that correction in this. I will tell you that we're going to do the very best we can to make this transition as seamless as possible. And I'm confident that the incumbent will assist us in doing so. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. I think most of the financial information is self-explanatory, and we'd like to go ahead and move forward to get that position filled as quickly as we can.
Where you plan on advertising? Because obviously this isn't going to be done internally.
Yeah, this won't be done internally. So we'll advertise in all the same places that we did previously. We'll put it out to KAC, we'll put it out to the associations. And then I've already just started to do what I do, and I've reached out to 6 potential candidates and had some response back. just within the last day. That, you know, if you would be interested in this type of position, and they're all Kansas, some of them have more county attorney experience than county counselor, but as Nancy and I discussed, some of the smaller counties, that's one
Same thing.
the same, yeah. So we want someone obviously that's interested in not necessarily only prosecution, because that's not what they're gonna get, but they, you know, they understand that too, it's a kind of situation. We have really, and I know I mentioned it, but we did have a really great response to the county attorney position. And so that gave me some contacts in all of those areas, and I'm just gonna push it out and hopefully get some. This is a great opportunity. You know, it would be a greater opportunity if they had a mentor for a longer period of time. You know, for kind of someone newer in the profession, but.
There was a misunderstanding on his end date too. It's a couple
Yeah.
years longer.
I did mention to him that it's very easy to push it back 1 year, his return.
All I can say is mentor schmentor. We have the time, that's available. And, I appreciate the sentiment. I think we should make this work.
I think there's a typo of his original stuff.
No, I mean, to be honest with you, it'd be nice to find a person to fit this role and then potentially move into the other role, and then that transitions a little bit easier.
Sure, that would be ideal.
That'd be optimal.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that would be ideal. So if we can find someone who has great experience and good perspective and understands the client relationship with the board and this position, then I think that would be ideal.
Well, let's see, I would move to approve the above plan to hire and onboard for the deputy county counselor position.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the requisition to open the deputy county counselor's position with the following timeframe outlined. All in favor?
Aye.
All three sign, please.
Thank you.
Next, Commissioner, you have Mr. Bowler at 9:15.
Yeah. I don't know what to think of the Royals just yet.
Do they show any signs of possible?
The starting pitching's looking good. I mean, really good. The bullpen is kind of crap. And the offense is a little inconsistent, but that tends to be the case this time of the year. So I still stay with my original prediction of 76 and 86.
Morning, Michael.
Good morning, sir. How is everybody?
Good.
Either spray the brand.
It was a little chilly this morning.
Yeah, the ground temperature still,
Mhm.
still pretty warm. Stuff isn't really taking off quite yet.
So that last rain and a little bit of a warm up though, as people gotten out and started finding some brownies.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, you were thinking that too, huh? Yeah.
When I was typing this, I couldn't.
I thought I'd seen somebody with some pictures and there were some pretty good ones.
Yeah, and I usually don't like to buy them, but anymore with the ticks and stuff, I would prefer let somebody else go out and find them. I'll give them a little cash for their efforts.
Pay the $14 a pound or whatever.
it is, yeah. For me, I've been to the doctor several times the last couple of years with tick bites that have gotten a little out of control, and whatever that may cost, and certainly a lot more than a bag of mushrooms.
Are people finding them?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're out already along the river and low-lying areas where water temperature and humidity's up a little bit more. In the highlands,
Pretty good ones, you know.
Might have to check my creek.
Yeah, that would. Although probably, let's get down in the lower thirties, probably stunted them at this point, Tom, but a couple good days in the seventies.
I've seen somebody that's making walking sticks and hand carved the top to look like a morel mushroom,
Oh, really?
and they're outstanding. Whoever did it.
That takes some time.
There's a gentleman up in Tognoxie, used to, he'd make them out of wood, he'd make them out of wax, make them out of all kinds of stuff.
I can't imagine the carving is scooped out the
Yeah.
floorboards and stuff. That's just amazing. I'm 9:15, correct?
Yeah.
Commissioner Ford, I see you with the same drink all the time. But is that something you mix at home or is that?
Both. I've got the stuff to do it at home and I got the place is just right up the street from me. So I usually stop there before I come in the office.
Is it a nutrient drink? Something?
Yeah, it's an energy drink. It's the same stuff we had at the county officials luncheon.
Oh, okay, yeah. I like that.
Not
Where's
the,
that company at?
it's right up, right next to Anna's Burger Shack over there on the.
Close to Domino's.
Next to Domino's, off of Tuttle Creek there.
Oh, it's called Anna's Burger
I
Shack?
mean, it's right next to it. It's called Little Apple Nutrition. Where copies for less.
What was the name of that burger shack before? Did they change the name?
Yeah,
Well, yeah, it was Steve.
Big D's.
Big D.
Yeah,
Big
he was
D's.
that retired fire.
His name was
Yeah.
Dave.
Correct. And I think it's his wife that took it over. So it's basically still in the
really?
family, but they just
Oh,
changed
it's-
names.
Oh, well, is it?
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Really?
That's what threw me off when you said something burger shack. I was
Yeah.
like, where's that?
And before
Big
that, it was
D.
it was a liquor store
He
for a
is a
long
big
time
dude.
before
He's super
that.
nice.
Yeah, he did Santa Claus, he had a Santa Claus outfit.
There used to be a donut store in there too.
Yep,
Well,
Dunkin' or not, DK Donuts. It was
Mhm.
there for
Mhm.
a shoo, long time. Yeah, it was
Mhm.
there when I first started coming to Manhattan. At the old school.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
When we show up in black and white, they always.
Well, that whole little strip mall right there,
Pretty fair
that
price.
whole little strip mall right there used to be a Shop Quick.
well, there was a little taco place there for a long time.
Taco Tico, or no,
No, I don't.
no, Taco
It
Tico was
wasn't a
down
brand
here.
name. It was, but
Taco,
they have specials. They'd have like tacos Sunday night, 4 for $1 or something.
Really?
This was
I don't remember
They had
that years
all you-
ago.
they had all you could eat like taco burger. Basically, it's just
Yeah,
taco
yeah.
meat on a bun. Basically, it was nothing extravagant.
But they run
Taco
specials. We
Taco
Go down
Grande?
go up.
That's the thing about law enforcement and donuts. That's where that always came from. It's not that cops love donuts so much, but at 3:30 in the morning.
That's the only thing that's open. Yeah.
There's two people working, those that are making donuts and cops. And so it's just a perfect marriage.
But that doesn't explain things during the day, Mike. There's plenty of other things
Yeah.
open.
Well, fireman, it's nice.
Yes.
I could very rarely open up a dozen donuts no matter where I'm at. And anybody went, oh, gosh. Very rarely ever it does that.
No, but what's that?
Some of the things have changed. I used to love a good donut, but I don't eat them
Yeah, to
anymore.
me anymore, they're overrated.
Yeah.
The ones I do like come out of Tasty Pastry
Tasty Pastry.
Place Center, but they're different. They're more of a bread, it's not really your traditional donut dough.
Is it more like a cake?
Cake donuts.
Cake donut, yeah.
Kind of more along the bread line, really.
They've gotten too crazy on this and donuts. Give me an old fashioned just. glazed.
Yeah, if I'm gonna have a donut, I just want it glazed, really.
Yeah, although a maple long john, that's.
That'd be my next favorite. That'd be my next.
That's what the union back in the day, they had the donut plate. I mean, they made the donuts right there.
Well, that's how this place that we were talking about, they had a big dough roller right there in the front window. Where you could roll out. I mean, it was the glass and that's where.
Yeah.
My neighbor baked for Vern's Donuts way back.
Oh,
I don't know if anybody remembers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Basement, Burns and Swanee's.
Swanee's, yeah.
Swanee runs, yeah, that was a big deal.
This is parts of 2906 and 311.
I'm finally at that age where I can,
Oh,
I remember stuff that nobody else.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm
So Burns.
aware what they did on that one.
Well, they haven't done it yet, but they're close.
It's lumped into
Your
that.
line down at first.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I plan to chat a little on that this morning.
Okay.
I remember in college when Brothers and all the bars in Angville had closed, Pyramid Pizza on the corner there were so long as you talk about lines after the bars closed for a slice of pizza.
Yeah, they had the King Tut. I remember the King Tut
Mhm.
pizza was fully loaded pizza.
Oh.
It's called the King Tut.
And that pizza had really good crust on it. I really like their crust, and I'm not usually a big crust eater of pizza.
Yeah, first year in college, I lived off of Godfather's pizza buffet. It was like $2.99 for pizza and a salad.
Well, it's like the time of year for kids. When you get the kids in there. Load them up.
Never, ever again.
Yeah, Godfather's was good pizza. I don't
It was.
know if they're, are they still around?
They are in the Nebraska area.
That's what
Are
came
they?
out of.
Yeah,
That's where
Really?
they started.
yeah,
was in
Omaha
Nebraska.
area.
Did not know
That's where
that.
Marlon Brando was from. That's how it got its name.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, it's good news, Rich, that company is gonna.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that.
I'll be curious to see if they're remedy though. I still am skeptical.
Well, it's
They're
probably
just-
gonna not look.
They're just gonna give you that, well, look, but I mean, so much, because like I say, I mean, that's one point. Those other two center points are weak or maybe cracked. We're gonna just tighten them down. So
Mm,
even if it's just on the back end, it's still gonna pull up eventually. So we'll see.
I'm just glad they recognize they're not trying to blame us for banging.
Well, I knew they knew it was when they said, don't pull them.
Right.
They knew.
I had to be the first one at the first handle I pulled right in front of Susan. It went, oh, jeez. It just had to be me. Guess better me than anybody else.
Okay, Mike.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. I'm Mike Bowler, Director, Riley County Noxious Weed and Hazardous Waste with our monthly staff update. This again is a busy time of year for us, and we start with spring spraying. That will begin this month with bare ground applications on county roads, bare grounds, including side spraying, roadside guardrails, and parking lots. That can be kind of an expensive endeavor. That chemical we use is called Plainview, and it's like $175 an ounce. We go through about $15,000 worth a year. It is not cheap, but it's a very effective chemical, and when we're spraying that kind of chemical, we need to be very concerned about leaching, that sort of thing. And so you got to buy the best when you're doing that. But at any rate, we're going to start with that. And we're not off to a great start. We've had a pretty windy beginning so far.
Yeah.
And so my guys have been finding different ways to stay busy, but honestly, we would like to have been out already starting that. But as of right now, we have not started our first program. Solid spraying for noxious weeds and annual weeds will begin this month as well as weather permits. And as commissioners will recall, we do a third of the county a year. Last year, we did the very top north portion, and this year we will begin with the very south portion of the county. So in case anybody wants to ask, that's how we do it. Spring seeding projects, those were down a little bit this year. From last year, we had about 45 locations, and this year we were down to about 30. And that's really just dictated by Public Works and how much ditches they're cleaning out, that sort of thing. Excuse me, I think last fall they had other priorities other than doing that, so our amounts went down. But regardless, we went out and got them seeded, and that's one thing that's not necessarily dictated by the wind, so we were able to accomplish that. And as of the first of this month, all of those have been taken care of. So have managed to get a few things done. We currently have a full stock of cost share chemical. It's this time of year. We've already made several chemical sales. And as reported last month, and I've mentioned in the past, any purchase of over 180 gallons of chemical is going to require an inspection. And that's really just to be in compliance with state law. But that's something that in the past, we have sold several pallets of chemical. And quite honestly, if you have several pallets worth of noxious weed, then I need to know about that. So we've made that restriction. I haven't had any fallout from that, but there are folks that like to buy lots of our chemical. And just a reminder, anything over 180 gallons is going to need to be inspected. So just wanted to mention that again. County roadside mowing will begin in May. Usually once we do our first mowing, that's when you see the grass take off. It really stimulates the growth to mow it. From last year, I think we got started a little earlier. I'm not completely set on just May, and maybe the last week in April. Again, very dependent on the weather. If we start getting some moisture, some warmer days, and that grass takes off, it's not like we're set in stone. We just very much, as I've mentioned, are dictated by Mother Nature when we do it and how we do it. So, but that's the plan. Somewhere in May, beginning of May, we're projected to start with our mowing. On the HHW side, we will be doing another Howie's clean out, as we always do, the second Saturday of the month. This month, that will be Saturday, April 13th. We do that down at Howie's from 8 to noon. And as a reminder, no business waste will be accepted. And then we also limit the amount of folks that can drop stuff off. We can't accept trailers of material because we only have a trailer down there. So it kind of makes sense. So I think the word's got in on that. We haven't had any issues with that, but it's something I like to continue to remind folks of. Clean Harbors contractor will be there to clean out our facility on the 9th. And I'm very happy to announce that our costs for clean outs has stabilized. That's another area that is really going to help me with budget this year moving forward. Last year, my chemical prices were just going up through the roof, and costs for cleanouts were going through the roof, and that dictated my need for a raise in budget. And I'm pleased that this time of year, going into the budget season, fingers crossed, I think I will be able to remain fairly neutral, and that's exactly why I'm just one of those fortunate departments that some of my costs have stabilized. I know others haven't, but good news on my end. I thought I'd relay that those have stabilized a little bit. So we are going to have a clean out from them. We do 6 of those a year, and that's coming up. Our regional training for HHW operators will be conducted in cooperation with Barton County Community College, and that training will take place on April 11th at the Riley County Public Works Training Room. That's something that me and my department put on as the administrators of the Big Lakes Regional HHW. We put on an annual training, an 8-hour training, so that they can get their recertification every year with KDHE. And since we put on that training, that requires Justin and I to get our training elsewhere. It's kind of funny, we provide the training, but then we have to go get trained by somebody else. And Justin and I did attend the works training there in Salina just last week. And there, he and I both received our 8 hours HHW processing recertification to make KDHE happy. Check that check mark that we've done and take care of. So in all, busy time of year for us. We're picking up, but no issues. We're not really behind on anything. It's just that it's been a little windy,
hopefully we can get some spray days in here soon. And hopefully next month, I'm not here to report that we've had more and more windy days and now we're behind. So fingers crossed a little bit, but no major obstacles in front of us and we're right where we need to be for this time of year. And henbit is the year of the henbit. That is the small little purple flower. It, in the counties, I swear,
That's
like
what
people
that
look up,
is.
it was
All that purple
henbit.
stuff, yeah.
I got a whole
Awful.
yard out in the parking lot's full of it.
Well, it's a perfect example of how
Kind of pretty.
different conditions will make different weeds flourish.
Huh.
If it was a very dry spring and a hot spring and early spring, then you would see bindweed, a lot more bindweed. This year, henbit flourishes on moisture and cool temperatures, and it is everywhere, that light purple. I mean, I've never seen it like this before.
It's crazy.
But you said they use it for a cover crop?
It
No,
looks like.
it looks like they do.
It's not intended, but
It's
that's what
okay.
it looks like on some of
Certainly
them.
does.
Yes, I remember out in
Places
South
I've never
County,
seen
I looked at
before.
Justin, and I said, are we sure people aren't planting this?
Right.
And he said, no, no. And I said, the whole fields are not.
It just spreads so easily.
Yeah, but that is a perfect example of when the conditions are right, just a certain plant will flourish. And it has nothing to do whether or not people have sprayed or hasn't sprayed. It's just, it's an example of Mother Nature just saying, I'm in control. You can pretend like you're not.
Well, at least it's purple.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I agree.
The color of it is nice and it's the first
It's that
thing.
violet purple.
Yeah.
And I've never seen it. I've seen it blooming here in town on March 1st this year. It was just, it's just very prolific. So people will call me and ask me all the time, what is that purple thing? So that you know, it's henbit. That's what it is. Any other questions you may have, Commissioners?
I did see him seeding the ditches along the curve on Anderson out there.
Yeah,
That's a trick, getting that machine up and down through the
yeah.
ditch. That's,
We fondly call that tractor Little Blue. In
Oh.
fact, we've called it Little Blue so long that Lori will ask me, Michael, what's the tractor for gas purposes? What's the tractor you drive? And I think it's 119, but I only know it as Little Blue. So yeah, that's our small tractor that we get in with the
Yeah.
ditches and everything.
but yeah, I mean, he's kind of back, some of the ends of trying to get in there and get the spread around and.
It can be spooky. Of course, tractors that we use are agricultural made. They're not designed to be on a 15 or a 20% grade. And there are some small culverts that, I mean, you're white.
That's what,
knuckling
yeah,
it.
there's some culverts there. That's what he's trying to get up around them.
Yeah.
You're leaning just to try and help it just a little.
Yeah, I've had operators push it here and really try to swing down and get that last little sapling tree that's growing. And I've had to say, look, guys, we need to, no. I mean, if we have to go down there and hand cut it, that's fine, but let's not roll the tractor trying to get it done. Because they do roll. The state of Kansas usually rolls 3 or 4 tractors a year. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. You have to pay attention, but you for sure. Anyway, thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
you.
Next commissioner, yeah, burst at 9:30.
That's just my riding mower on the front. I've got a ditch from the street down to the ditch. I'm leaning like this.
I've got some land that's like,
2 passes
Yeah.
because Jan won't go that far.
Well, I had a guy come cut my lower level and use my regular mower rather than riding mower. He came in and he goes, "You mow that one?" He says, "That was a terrible, it's like this." He said, "Yeah, you really gotta hang on to that mower."
Looks like Leavenworth was steep, only it went way up and
Yeah.
long. Took a while going back and forth there.
Yeah.
Lean this way and then get the other end, turn around, go lean the other way, trying to
Well, mine is
keep
like,
it on the hill.
it goes like this and then straighten it up and that one couldn't.
No.
That's great, right. I usually don't mow. I put buffalo grass in there, so I wouldn't have to mow it.
No.
You've got all sorts of fescue jumping in there.
Just buffalo grass, front yard, or a pink, you know.
That's good. I've got a good stand of it. If I want to mow that slope. You have to really use weed control. Yes.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioner Hannah Burson, with the Riley County Appraiser's Office here for our monthly staff update. And so I'm gonna just start off with our personal property. They're processing all those renditions that were received and assessing penalties for the non-returns. Also updating valuation for 2024 on personal property. Personal property notice of values are scheduled to be mailed by May 1st. On our ag use, as a reminder, ag use maps will be going out in the mail by May 15th. So for all of our property owner agricultural land, we're asking the owners to review and update these maps accordingly and reach out to our office if they have any questions or concerns relating to those. On residential, the 2024 valuation notices went out on February 23rd, and the deadline to file an appeal was March 25th of 2024. If a property owner missed the deadline, their next opportunity to appeal the valuation for 2024 would be when they pay their taxes in December. And they do that as the payment under protest through the treasurer's office. So our residential team is currently meeting with our property owners who have appealed their valuations for 2024. Our goal is to have conducted all hearings by April 15th. Currently, other members of the residential team are reviewing sales and training. A lot of training going on right now. We have just over 331 residential appeals relating to 2024 valuation. We have 3 small claims hearings, 1 full board hearing concerning a 2023 residential valuation. There are approximately 148 residential home sales so far for 2024. Our median sale price is right around $239,750 with an average sale price of $248,974. And our sales ratio currently stands at that 97%. It's important to understand though, these statistics are calculated using unvalidated sales. With being in the middle of appeals, once our team is back to reviewing all of the sales, we'll determine if every sale that we're looking at represents market. The commercial team is currently holding hearings, preparing for BOTA, and reviewing applications for our open position. We're working as well as working some sales in AR. Our next slide does show our updated BOTA calendar, and this is just everything that's outstanding. I did highlight in orange for you those that have dismissed or stipulated. So these are new over our prior meeting, and so that's kind of what I plan to do if this works for you moving forward. A change that's been approved, I'll highlight, what's changed, and then the next update, you won't see that any longer. So you can just see that the list is dwindling.
We'll skip it down one page.
It's almost in half.
Very, very excited to see that. Now, obviously, with 2024 informals, they're likely it's just going to climb again. But on the other positive note, you can see pretty much everything is scheduled. I mean, the Walgreens is continued again, but everything else at this time is currently scheduled. So that's, good news-ish, whether it continued or not. I don't hold my breath.
Dismissed, does that mean they?
It's done. They just
said.
Nope, the property owner.
That's why I didn't know who dismissed.
After reviewing additional facts and conversations with our team, determined, they submit those dismissals. We do not. We submit a stipulation, they submit a dismissal. So, on the informal appeal count by tax year, I just wanted to kind of just show you the history. It goes all the way back to 1989. We're obviously reappraisal, and you can see that high volume of appeals. So 2023, 2024, you can kind of see where we went from 22, 23, and now at 24. This is a breakdown of the appeal counts by the property type, just so that you can see, as I mentioned, the residential's at 331, our vacants again at 43. And so for the residential appeal history, this is another kind of so you can just see just on the residential side what we see commonly. And so, when the values going up, when values go up, this is common. And so that's just a breakdown of those pieces. I also want to just kind of share some additional information first, really just to give a shout out to my team through this appeal process. We have several new members they're in the early stages of training. And with this, we've had several other team members stepping up and stepping into, duties and responsibilities that are not typical for their role. And so, it just really shows the dedication and commitment to Riley County to take on extra and do more. And so I just definitely want to recognize my team for all of the work that they're doing through this season. I will be returning to BOTA tomorrow for a continuance on an exemption hearing. I was at BOTA not last week, but the prior Friday. And so it's supposed to be a half day. We'll see if it ends up being another half day or if we end up there all day like the last one. Additionally, I will be back in Topeka next week again on Monday for another hearing. And so just that's preparing for BOTA has been quite a bit of what I've been working on in the last month, preparing budgets, looking at the staffing, making sure we're ready for this upcoming budget session, as well as the exemption presentation and staying up to date with legislation. And so on that note, regarding legislation, I was informed this morning from conference committee yesterday that it's looking like a lot of property tax related items are getting lumped into one big old bill. So like last year, we ended up with Senate Bill 8 that had everything thrown into everything but the kitchen cabinet basically thrown into that bill. This year, 311, I can't remember if it's a House bill or if it's Senate bill. Senate Bill 311 was one that kind of came out of left field. Last year it was introduced and the intent was to exclude IRS 1031 exchanges as representative of fair market value. This session, it just got thrown in really quick, and it was amended to include build-to-suit leases and sale leasebacks, which unfortunately is a dark store type thing. If that happens, it's going to pretty much undo all of the work, the Supreme Court decisions regarding the dark store idea. As well, exempting businesses in competition with local government has been lumped into that same bill.
Well, the way I read it, it's not all.
Okay,
It's childcare, it's restaurant, it's health facilities, and I'm missing one other one. There were 5.
but still a lot.
Yeah, it's still a lot.
Yeah,
And
Still a lot
very
that,
vague.
yes, and that vague piece of it could create some serious problems just for all jurisdictions.
Oh, yeah, it's a childcare facility, restaurant, fitness club. So maybe it is just 3.
So that's one that, I've been staying on top of the legislative stuff just to see, where things are going. There's some good pieces in it and some scary pieces in it. We'll just have to see what happens.
That's why they do that. So it's a one size fits all. If you like all of it, you have to take the bad with it and vice versa.
So,
But I think not to interrupt, but I think the important part to mention here is on both of those, what it does is it's not a property tax exemption, it's a property tax shift.
Yep.
And it's shifting from that commercial side once again to the residential side once again that we talked about last Thursday. It's
with the exemption discussion, the more that gets exempted, the more it's shifting the burden to the residential property owners. So that what we hear all the time, you're taxing me out of my home, you're taxing me out of my home. Well, this is not a tax relief type bill. This is a shift. We're gonna cut off another portion of that leg. And then now we're gonna be tipped so much on property tax to residential. And it's just gonna make it worse for the for homeowners, for the residential side of things. I mean, yes, it's gonna be carried, agricultural farm sites, all of that too, but the people hit the heaviest are homeowners. So, and again, if you have any questions, I'm open to questions. Just wanted to kind of give you that update on where things are.
I didn't find an actual number to the actual overall bill. I'm guessing it's a shell bill that they
Yeah.
floated everything
Yeah.
into, but I never did see a.
I don't know if
Number
there's
on
a number, yeah, all I know is that out of conference committee, it's all kind of just
Well,
getting
it's
lumped.
gonna have to come back to the House or the Senate, so I'll have to have a number.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna call it.
It's that time of the year.
Yeah, the session, you start throwing
Yeah.
stuff real fast.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
What else is gonna get tossed in the end?
Yeah.
That's really what happened last year, is a whole bunch of things that were not prepared to end up in there, ended up in them.
There was quite a hot mic discussion yesterday too.
Oh, there was.
On the tax conference committee.
Anything else for me, Commissioner? So thank you.
Next, Commissioner, you have Julie Gibbs at 9:45.
Very good. I did have a couple, commissioners, if I may, I did have a couple of neighbors that appealed their deal. And they took feedback to me as the first staff and stay in the job, explaining things. There had actually been a couple of errors that they had made in the past with what's called door hangers, and we had misrepresented some things, so the errors were actually the property owners' fault to begin with, but the feedback that I got that they wanted to never relay.
Good. Think about it. I haven't. It's been pretty quiet on that, but I haven't heard much from anybody.
Had to jinx yourself, didn't you?
We're almost at the end of it. Yeah, apparently our Senate Tax Committee Chair dropped a couple profanities on Mike yesterday in the conference committee. Yeah,
So who was that?
Karen Tyson. Thanks.
You're not gonna make fair, equitable decisions when you're in those positions and have a bias or axe to grind.
She does on this one.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And against local government.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the goal here is to basically blame us for it when we don't reduce that tax burden on. One way to do that. I mean, we can, but then, we reduce services. So it's a loss either way.
When they had the opportunity, they exempted themselves from the R&R rules. And they decided to spend 5 million on a presidential preference primary because they are flush with cash.
Well, they're not going to reduce their property tax percentages, I'm sure. Maybe it doesn't go up 8 or 10%, but I mean, you can guarantee a good, healthy 2 to 3%, even with the surplus. I'm just throwing that out there. They actually wanted to reduce property tax on that end. They would at least balance that out with the surplus.
Not an environmental conservative.
Special interest is still special interest, no matter what it is. That's just human nature. It's rather interesting though that they've lumped childcare facilities into this government competition.
Yeah,
Just considering where we're at there. I don't know how do you work around the issue without some sort of government intervention. That's ironic. I've got the person that can answer that question.
Yeah.
You're sitting here, right?
Isn't it amazing how they do that? But then they say, oh, we have to have government intervention to solve the housing so-called crisis. I commonly look for what I call mental disconnects. Dog's garden place.
what is it?
My dog's regarding the place walking across the lawn. There we go.
It's good for them. I need a couple of those.
It's 9:45. Gonna need a motion, please.
I moved to recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Board of Health.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded. We recess as the Board of County Commission and then reconvene as the Board of County Health. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Right. Good morning, Commissioners. Julie Gibbs with the Health Department. I'm joined by Shanika Rose, our health educator and accreditation specialist. Shanika is also the supervisor for Andrea, who is our part-time DEC coordinator. DEC again stands for Drug Endangered Children of Kansas. We applied for funding through KDHE for her position to be able to really serve to fill the gaps of our needs in our community when it comes to drug endangered children. So she's done a great job so far of partnering with other organizations and other professionals in the area, looking at resources that they might need to help with this issue. We have been, there was an announcement that came through KDHE that they do have additional funding to be able to offer those recipients of this grant. Up to 50,000. So we are asking to apply for additional funds to be able to increase Andrea's hours from 16 to 25 hours, so an additional 9 hours per week. This grant is through September of 2025. We have found out that it's going to take a little bit more time to be able to meet all of our goals, which is something that just comes with a new position and a new grant. Sometimes you find out things along the way, but I think that would serve us well if we could have additional time for her to be able to reach our goals. So we're asking for a little over 25,000, close to 26,000. So not the full ask for 50,000. We just want enough to be able to increase her hours by 9. So 25 hours per week. That would cover her salary and benefits. Everything else we have covered already through the grant. Anything else you need to know? Any questions?
What's gonna be the status with this position in September of 25? Goals met or not?
So, so the actual grant, you want me to go through?
Yeah, please.
Sorry. Yes. So the actual grant ends December 31st of 2025. What we're hoping to do when we do our strategic planning is that we have some strong coalitions in our community that do receive federal grant money that can sustain this past that. So we're looking to partner with them because the work needs to continue even if the position doesn't. So within those established coalitions, we're hoping that they'll be able to pick up some of the funding things that we're doing with this additional money for our community.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was noticing, Elizabeth, that there are part-time benefits that come with it too.
Yeah, to get past 20 hours, you have to move benefits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of a complicated matrix, but if you go over 1,000 hours in a year, then federally we're required to have benefits. And then beyond that, it's kind of difficult to determine temporary. So temporary in a couple of months, okay, no benefits, but temporary over a year and a half, it's going to be, it's something that we really need to have benefits. So talking to Shelley, who did the math for these guys on benefits, she actually added in, even though we didn't have benefits at all through the September period, we added in enough to cover that time period as well. So there should be enough in that requested funding to cover benefits starting as soon as you approve it, plus an average of 25 hours, which remember can be used. It's basically a bucket of hours. So even though that person, as we discussed, isn't working this month, she'll be able to pick those hours up when she comes back. We do need to have benefits in this position. And all along, we've had to have capers and unemployment, but this will be the added expensive benefits, you know, the healthcare and those things. No, that's not necessarily guaranteed that she'll take that. We haven't discussed that with her. I don't know, even at this point, whether she will. So, but we have to have it in our budget.
And it says here that that's gonna, obviously you gotta get the grant first, but starting on June 1st and then filling out to that point.
Well, that's our projection. So basically they want to start as soon as it's approved and they have the grant funding. And we don't believe that'll happen before June 1st.
Okay.
Communication. So that she would continue working her regular 16 hours a week up until the point where that's approved.
Well, I would make a motion to approve, that we recommend the Board of Health approve the request to apply for additional debt funds to cover Andrea's hours.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to recommend the Board of Health approve the request to apply for additional debt funds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sure, please sign.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Next, commissioners, you have Amanda Webb at 10. Yeah, that's some time.
Oh, okay. Did we set up a schedule for our public meetings?
Yeah. Mhm.
Can you find, I can't, somebody's asking me about it and I thought we'd set it up and
Yeah, we did. I don't remember it.
I
but Yes,
lost
we did.
whatever it was.
I know. I can do the same thing.
Somebody was running the mayor was asking what time, when are we scheduled down?
Oh, I've got it.
You got it?
Okay.
I thought I'd made a copy of it, but I put it in a safe place.
Like I always tell people, my filing system is great, retrieval is heck.
That's why I was looking for something at home. I know I've got it at home, some stuff.
I hate it when I do that stuff. Drives me nuts.
You said remote, I'm thinking Zoom, so I think that's what you're talking about, right?
What the county,
The county meetings?
yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to.
Yeah, I had to do the same thing. I think we approved doing them, but they had to check to see what times are going to be
Oh,
available.
they are coordinated.
Yeah.
With the local.
I'm almost thinking that it's in reverse this year.
Yeah.
We did Riley first and
What
then.
time did we start at 7 or 6?
I think it's 6. I got that on like other calendars. Yeah, I got it down at 6.
Okay, well, let's see now.
Women's game Friday night ought to be pretty good. I won.
Yukon.
Oh, yeah. You got 2 teams. NC State and Yukon, with both their men and women's in the Final Four.
Yeah, I know. What's up with that? That's good news on the point guard. I was kind of concerned with our performance this year and how attractive we'll be to some of the better transfer portal people.
I think really what it comes down to is our assistant coaches and how they have recruited over the last couple of years and those relationships they've made. That's how this kid from Michigan. I mean, he's your slasher and dasher type of kid. Drives the basket, pass it off. Averaged almost 17 points as a sophomore, so he's gonna be here for a couple of years too. Hopefully.
But also on the team, wasn't it, because they all concentrate on him, because he was the leading scorer, so the other team tended to be keyed on it, and he still did well. Did we get a new recruit?
That's what they said, yeah.
Yeah, we got a transfer from Michigan. Yeah.
What's his dimensions?
5'11".
I remember watching the early one games early this year. I didn't know who he was, but he's quick. Be a good match with Castillo, who's coming in.
I just love that Burns from North Carolina State. They're big forward they got. I don't know what. Great guy off the court too. Yeah.
Well, the last time they made the Final Four, they were kind of a Cinderella team.
Oh, it's a great story.
Yeah.
Make a movie out of the story. And I guess he'll be up against. Purdue. That's gonna be fun to watch.
Purdue's big guy. He's legit, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
He's legit.
the Burns' footwork is incredible. He moves like he's 5'9". Incredible.
Okay.
Got a quick question. I didn't hear it. Did we win baseball last night in Missouri State?
8-4.
Got a pretty big series this weekend against UCF. That's the other pretty good Big 12 team this year.
Missouri State's where one of my son-in-laws went to school.
The Bears.
Mhm.
So I was like, yeah, I think it's something more. Yeah. Because I was like, there's something these tests. I think it's like, oh. Well, it is. I mean, it's the most transparency. Yes.
Lucky went to the restroom, I think. Living room.
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay, I'd make a motion to recess as the Board of County Health and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We recess as the Board of County Health and then reconvene as the Board of County Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead, Amanda.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Webb, Planning Director.
I am here with Planning and Development's monthly staff update, and we will start with Keats as we like to do. So everything's kind of going along as needed. We're still working on the environmental assessment for the USDA Rural Development Funding. I'm waiting for, I reached back out to Birdie Past yesterday, and they said they would get updated scope and cost analysis to us. Because at this point, we're just having to do the phase 2 cultural survey, not the full cultural study. So that's what I need them to update their scope and give us a cost for that portion of it. And they said they'd be able to get that to us pretty quick. So you should see an agreement with them here soon, and then we'll get them moving along. So the time frame, they didn't seem to indicate any concern with getting it done in a sufficient manner. So the geotechnical evaluation is complete. It's been, of course, as you folks know, complete for a few weeks now. Terracon did say they will have the results and a report to us next week. So we'll have that information for you folks next week. So of course, as you know, we entered into an option agreement for the land adjacent to Keats Park. There was an open records request for that signed agreement. So we have provided that to a resident of the district. Who he's one of the ones we've been in a lot of contact with, a handful of the community residents out there, just with different questions. We're kind of they're kind of the liaisons, if you will, between us and the residents out there. Just have been really good to work with, just getting information out there, getting information to us. We're just sharing a lot of stuff out there. They have that website there, keeping things posted on. So they've been really, really active, which I do definitely appreciate with those folks there. So the Kansas Water Office will make official announcements next week about the technical assistance grant and the infrastructure grant. So we'll know more next week. As always, we continue to seek additional funding opportunities, as we always do. Let's make sure I have everything for Keats. I think that's the update for Keats, unless you have anything specific on that one. All right. So comp plan update, the RFQ for the consultant will get published on our website today, and I have a group of 15 land use planning firms, local regional firms I will be sending it out to, and then we'll also post on the American Planning Association's webpage, and as I just mentioned, it's on our webpage as well. And as I like to do, just keep talking about it with everybody so people know it's out there and available. And there's a few weeks for consultants to submit their qualification reports to us. So hopefully at the end of that time, we'll have a good pile to review and choose from, so that we can get a really good consultant on board and proceed with our project. So the logo title and tagline survey is available on our website and has been for a few weeks, and it'll be available for a while longer. When I checked yesterday when I was writing this report, there was 39 responses. Of the 3 questions, there's 4 options for each question. And there is an outstanding winner for each question. I don't want to reveal it yet because I don't want to, get people thinking anything, but it's just been interesting to see that there's a pretty overwhelming response for one option for each question. So we'll still be collecting that input from folks over the next few weeks and provide that to you probably at the end of this month when we do that report and see how you'd like to proceed with that. Anything with the comp plan update? So it's slightly quiet right now while we, of course, go through the consultant selection process and get somebody on board. Most of our groups are kind of holding off meeting right now until we get the consultant on board. We'll kick back off probably in June to get everything keep moving. You of course know about the folks from the Terra Heights neighborhood with the short-term rental concerns. We've still been chatting with them. Of course, they are planning to come to our next Monday's Riley County Planning Board meeting again, just to talk a little bit more about any options for regulation changes, anything like that. Just definitely encourage them to keep in contact with us, with planning staff, with the boards, with you folks. And I know when we talked about, I believe it was last week, talking to the state about our enforcement abilities. So just want to make sure they know that we're still here to do what we can and hear them and hear their concerns and provide them, again, the direction if they need to talk to the state or you folks or whoever it would be. So they're kind of still, still presenting some information, still providing us information on that. So we'll probably have another conversation with you folks in the next month or two, just to check in about it and see if there's anything different. We're working through interviews for our as-needed clerical assistant position. My current clerical assistant we have through the end of this month. The hope still is, although we're getting close, but the hope still is to have somebody on board before she leaves. So there's at least a little bit of cross training. Again, there's plenty of room in planning and development's current budget, so we would need any additional funding to do so. It would just be really, really beneficial if we could do that. She is providing or putting together a lot of different procedure sheets, both for our permit planning software and then of course just how things are done. So just in case we have to hand things off about that overlap, we'll at least have some written instructions, written things. So, somebody coming in would be able to work with those to at least get started. Just a note, so you folks are aware, in case you've heard anything, we did send letters out to all property owners in the county that have an active alternative wastewater system. There's two different kinds of alternative wastewater systems. There's passive and active. Most people have passive these days, but there are some holdouts, if you will, and some new that we do that are active. Those have a little bit more components to them, a little bit more mechanical features, so those really kind of need to be monitored and maintained on a bit of a closer basis than your regular systems. So we did send that letter out in the past few weeks. Apologies, I can't remember exactly what the date was that we sent that out. Just to let folks know that this is something they need to get done as per the sanitary code. It's required to have them inspected and maintained as needed annually. Usually we can offer that service. We allow people to do it themselves with us monitoring. We offer the service, or people can hire a contractor. Most people hire contractors, how we've had it in the past, and of course they have to submit that documentation to us. How we've done it in the past is, we'll track these, and if we are seeing that people haven't had their required inspection roughly in the fall, we would notify them that they need to submit an application to us, that we would go out and do that inspection. We're not going to be able to offer that this year because we just don't have the person trained up to do that. So this letter was a little bit different this year, just reminding people of the requirement, but that we will not be able to offer that service, so that they'll need to have a contractor do that for them. So just a reminder for folks. Usually people are pretty good about it. Some need a little additional encouragement. So just keep up with that. So the solid waste management plan, of course, that is our 5-year update, is due to KDHE by May 14th. The committee has been working on that over the last several months. We broke into groups by the different elements in the plan, and been having a lot of really good discussion amongst the group. Just a lot of updating the outdated references, the resources, the tables with the facts and figures. And of course, we review and update annually, but the bigger updates, of course, are these every 5 years. So the last real full update was 2019. So we just need to make sure we are incorporating our updated numbers through 2023 for recycling figures and waste tons and all of that different sort of stuff. So, and just making sure again that we incorporate what we have accomplished and have been doing over the last 5 years. So that's all what will be incorporated into that update. The planning board will have to review this, and they'll do that on Monday evening. That is a new requirement in the process from the state from 2019, but the planning board also needs to review. So I'm sure they're very excited and ready to do that. Look at this 100+ page document. But we'll get that done on Monday, and then it'll be before you folks at a public hearing and for you to make a decision on approving and then sending to the state for final approval. It'll be before you on April 22nd. So I think those are my highlights. Anybody have any questions? Anything I didn't cover? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Amanda. Next commissioner, Elizabeth Ward, 1015.
The address policy has been slightly updated after the department head meeting yesterday, so that's what I have. Do you imagine the big version? I was changing. Because after yesterday's conversation, it changed.
Okay.
A bit, so the commission don't have a copy.
Thank you. Did you get that? I want to make sure you get that with the resolution, the extension resolution. You did it like, okay. That's the one thing I forgot to check. Thank you.
Yep. Mhm. Thank you. Nancy, do you know, I'm late 10:45, just so you know.
Would that help to find it out, John, as you shake your head, but give you some better visual days? Yes. All right. Good morning, Commissioners. Elizabeth Ward, Human Resources Director, and we are here to talk about policy proposed changes, third round. And we've got a little extra time today, so we're hoping to maybe get through this list, because there's a couple of big ones, but the others are going to be something that you've already seen. So starting with holidays, we have actually gone back to the original proposal, but modified the terminology, kind of based on what the commissioners talked about, knowing ahead of time, seeing that ahead of time, and not being surprised by it. So if you look at the impact that I had sent you, so there's this spreadsheet, and it's in the packet as well, that talks about in the next 10 years, the implication of what our current policy states versus the proposed policy. We laid out the 10 years, and then I went ahead and put them on the calendar for the next 5 years, just to give you kind of a visual of what the days would look like. So between the current policy and the proposed policy, there's 3 years that have no change. We would have the exact same amount of leave at Christmas. There are 3 years that would have 1/2 additional day. And then there are the remaining 4 years that would add an additional day per our policy. And I know you've heard me say it, but just to remind you that in effect, we have, Human Resources has come to the commissioners every year and asked for that additional half day. So our employees have been receiving traditionally 2 full days, not per policy, but because of approval by the commissioners. And so, we're talking with the department heads who went through this yesterday. They voted to support the change in policy. And I'm hoping that maybe this gives us some visual ideas of how the effect would be and maybe answers your questions. And I know I put it in the email to you all, but I know also just from talking with these folks, and certainly feel free to ask them, that the 24th of December is our least traffic day as far as customers come, as far as the community is coming in. And so generally we have much more staff members in our buildings than we ever have customers. And I know Michael talked a little bit about just the challenges of everybody. If we're not closed, everyone asks for the day off. And so the challenges of deciding who doesn't get to take the day off because we have to have staffing. It is what it is. I mean, that is our jobs and that's fine, but I just kind of want to keep the return of that day. It's not a high cost as far as customer traffic goes.
In general, I don't like half days. You know, people don't get any work done and you come to work and you just, ready to go. So I like these changes.
Then I would add to what, as the chair of the department head committee, that vote was unanimous. There wasn't any.
I'm not quite surprised by that.
Well, I'll also say my same thing on Saturday and Sunday should only be one.
The challenge I have with that is the challenge we had just not just last year, but the year before, where it ends up being a 4-day week. And not that I have a problem with that, but boy, it really puts all of us behind in terms of what we need to do and accomplish. So I kind of second that notion to a certain extent. But my other question, though, is too, when we have the midweek, the Tuesday, Wednesday, I mean, what's going to happen on the Thursday? I mean, people are traveling for the holidays. Well, does that Thursday come in question, or does the Wednesday when it's on a Tuesday come in question? We're never going to get it perfect. We just aren't. But I mean,
yeah, we won't get it perfect for everyone because some people do celebrate on the 24th and some people do celebrate on the 25th. And some people are out of town and some people are in town. But I think, and maybe I don't want to misspeak, but I think the message I received from the commissioners was to simplify it.
yeah,
Make it clear, make it the same, and not have to come in at the end of November or for mid-December and say, okay, now here's a surprise. And so, I mean, that I don't think that any policy is going to make every single employee happy. But I do think I do think this policy would be clear and it wouldn't change year to year.
John, Amy had something.
I also wanted to add, with that being a slower week, even in our office, people aren't buying and selling their house right before Christmas. And with the additional half day and it being 2 days in a row, you can even split your staff to where half can be off the few days before Christmas if they wanted to, and then they come back to work while the remaining staff take the end of the week off. It just gives you a little more flexibility in a slow week.
Because your traffic is slower, so you can so you can still get your work done. So, yeah.
And I would say that goes for most offices, like my office deals with a lot of other government agencies, state agencies or whoever. That's a week that a lot of people are taking vacation, so we can't get a lot done anyway as far as like plan reviews with KDM or any that kind of work. 'Cause half the people you need to talk to up there.
It's like the biggest problem is when Christmas is in the middle of the week.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. And how do you-
the
how
only
do you
one I
deal with
have is
that?
when it's kind of at the end of the week or the beginning of the week, it's a long pause. And I've seen where that's challenging.
Yeah,
The entire community's on a long pause at that time.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it really is, yeah.
It's challenging either way.
What, no?
I'm not serious, but give us the whole week.
Not helping with that.
Former public works director.
Easy for you to say, you don't have much to do that time of the year. Unless it snows.
They got hit hard this year.
Go ahead, Mike.
The only comment that I have, if we choose not to go with the 2 days, then I would like to point out that the prior policy where we don't recognize a day off if you're already scheduled, so your 10-hour employees, technically, if we just recognize Christmas on Friday, they're still gonna work a 40-hour work week during Christmas. And I understand the fairness of the other policy, the 10-hour employee gets, 2 more hours of holiday. But in this particular case, if we just went with the 1 day, say it's fell on a Saturday and we recognize it on a Friday, then the 10-hour flexible employee still work 40 hours that week. And I, the idea of being fair. I think-
Well, you're not gonna be 100% fair here that,
Sure,
and with
sure,
flexible scheduling like that, I mean,
sure,
I do the same thing at Florence and that same thing's gonna happen to us.
sure. And I
That's just how that works.
And I understand the need for that policy is because they got more hours and that wasn't fair for the other.
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to every situation. They're not the same. I guess if the question is primarily the Saturday and Sunday, I would just
Yeah,
remind
2
us.
days I don't have a problem with except Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, and I would just remind us, it's obvious, but that only happens every 7th and 8th year. So it's not, it's not like every year, but
My thing with Saturday and Sunday is whether it's holiday or not, employees get that off.
yeah, those are not holiday days.
And
It's
the
not a
half a
holiday
day
day.
scenario is still gonna be the same thing, that nobody's
Well,
gonna come in. It's not-
I'm just saying 1 day. It's Saturday, you get Friday off, and Sunday you get Monday off. The rest of it, I don't have a problem with.
Which ones are those?
Well, I guess in what you have, it would be 2027 and 2028.
So Christmas Day is on Saturday. They would get Friday off or not?
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
they would
Friday,
get
just Friday and not Monday.
And,
Then Sunday, you get Monday off.
Yeah, that's the
Tuesday.
deviation. Every other year you'd have 2 days. And those years you would have 1 paid holiday. If what I'm understanding Greg to say correctly.
Yeah.
In the end, it's obviously your decisions. I'm not a big fan of saying, okay, this year, you deserve 2 days, next year you deserve 1 day. I mean, I get Greg's thought on like the driving and the day off
You
and the
get
weekend.
3 days.
Yeah, you're getting
You get 3 days.
Well, but the
You're
weekend
getting
is,
3 days.
you have 3 days off, but the weekend
Yeah.
are not your work days. Saturday and Sunday are not your work days.
Well, for some people, that's a benefit too. Some people don't get weekends off.
Right, but they have a different day off. I mean, no one works 7 days a week. And I've worked in those situations. And if you do, you're pulling overtime like crazy. But I have worked in those situations where your weekend was Monday, Tuesday, or whatever. That's true. But it's not true here, except in emergency.
I tend to kind of agree with that, Greg. On those particular years. I also think on those particular years, there's gonna be a whole lot of people trying to get a whole lot of things done on that day before and that day after because you had that time off.
So you wouldn't give them the Monday after.
No, you'd have the Monday off. You wouldn't have the Friday off on the 28th or the.
2020.
Thank
It
you.
would just be one day,
Yeah.
Catherine, is the idea.
Okay.
Instead of Friday and Monday, you would just have one of those two, either Friday.
I struggle with the 4-day off scenario due to just falling behind.
But it's 2 extra days, not 4 days. I mean, we're not working on Saturday and Sunday. I mean, I get your point. We're not working, but we're never working. We're
Yeah,
not
if there
working on
was a
Saturdays.
holiday, we wouldn't. be
Okay, so it's 2 extra days, but
Yeah.
in a sense, it's 1 full extra business day in that sense. It's not technically a holiday.
True, that is very true. Sure. Yeah.
Well,
The other days, I'm fine with the full day instead of the half. That's fine.
we're kind of like it as proposed because Christmas is different than any other holiday. People just really, they travel a lot and have family and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and of all the weeks of the year, the grocery market, I'd say it's the least busy.
Yeah.
I'm on Matt. So I don't know where that leaves us.
I vote. I mean, it's that appropriate at this point. Basically, we've got the as proposed, or we've got 2 days, except when Christmas falls on Saturday and Sunday, what I see here being discussed.
Yeah, we don't have a consensus.
Right,
Yeah.
so. I guess
See, I'm proposing that 2 days except from Christmas on Saturday and Sunday. Those are only 1 days.
okay.
That's your motion?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll second that. It's been moved in second to go with the Christmas schedule as proposed with the exception of the years where it falls on Saturday and Sundays. Then it becomes 1 day. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, this one you may have already decided, but I wanted to make sure, I wasn't clear if this was a consensus. And so it's the eligibility for holiday pay. We've discussed it last time and whether or not someone is scheduled to work, if they would not be able to designate a different day. And so I just wanted to bring it back and ensure we were on the same page.
Go through that one again. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. So basically, if someone is not scheduled to work on a holiday, the department head has the ability to redesignate a day off. So if holiday falls on a Friday, I'm not scheduled to work, I also take Thursday off. So that week I get paid a holiday for Thursday when everyone else is observed on a Friday. It's really only the people who have alternate schedules. The proposal is to no longer redesignate the holiday to a different day. If you're not scheduled to work, you don't receive holiday pay. And I guess the committee thought this was the appropriate way to go because of that give and take of alternate schedules, flexible schedules. I mean, there's benefits to that. But it does affect our business operations when we have half of our staff on different days. So we've got, everybody celebrates on Friday, but we've got some people who are alternate schedules now, being off Thursday and Friday or Tuesday and Friday, whatever day is chosen. And it doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't make sense to pay for a holiday that you're not scheduled to work on. Now, go ahead.
No, you finish.
I was just going to say this is not, in the private sector, this is unheard of. This is not unheard of in municipalities. So this does exist in other municipalities.
Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, I think this came about because I think the city of Manhattan started doing it first, and our Public Works Director previously, I believe, is who brought it because we had another local public entity doing it. And I think Elizabeth's correct. There are a couple other local public entities that do this as well. I agree it's not common in the private sector, but I just want the board to know other municipalities do it. And I think that's where it came from because our staffs talk to the other municipality staff and they say, oh, we get that. And if we don't, well, we'll propose it. So that's how it got here.
And I mean, I think in the past, it hasn't been as impactful as it's going to be moving forward. We have been talking a lot about alternate schedules. We've been talking a lot about flexible schedules. We struggle to really know, when is someone scheduled so that we give you the right amount of time for an admin day, for a holiday, for a personal day. And, this is how we're currently doing admin days. So and it's been that way historically, if the county is closed unexpectedly, if you were not scheduled to work, you don't get admin pay.
Right.
So it's similar, the thought process was similar to that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know we have another flexible day in that equation that if all else fails could be used.
Oh, your
correct?
personal day?
Yeah.
Yeah, but do remember, we're not talking, people wouldn't lose work hours and their pay wouldn't be affected.
Right, gotcha,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. They would not get paid a holiday if they normally don't work on that day of the week.
I'm okay with this. Yeah, say some people aren't getting paid, but also those people, when they do have a holiday, they're getting 10 hours instead of 8.
Mm-hmm.
And over the process of the year, I'm guessing it. Probably, I was trying to do the math, couldn't make it work.
Maybe
It's
not
kind of
year-
balance out, maybe not exactly, but it kind of balances out.
Yeah, I think it does. And it's hard because some people work Tuesday through Friday, some work Monday through Thursday. This year, there's only one holiday on Friday, the whole year, but there's several on Monday now.
There's a lot, there's 4 or 5 that are on Monday every year.
Yeah, so yes, they do, when they are on a holiday and they're scheduled, they do get the 10 hours.
So I think it balances out over the year. Maybe not exactly, but like I say, it depends on the year where some of the holidays fall.
Well, and I
The
believe,
whole idea of holiday pay to begin with is to make sure that an employee keeps that 40-hour window when the
Right.
holiday happens.
right.
And that's why that benefit gets offered. So you're still keeping up with the basis of things of being able to get paid that salary, whether it's, hourly or set or whatever it is for that 40-hour week.
And I believe for many of our employees, the alternate schedule is a benefit. And so you're getting a benefit in that in itself, whether or not it comes out to flush on the hours. I don't believe that there's any employee who's adamantly against an alternate schedule that is forced to work such at this point. That could be the case in the future when our
It's
operations.
benefit to them, it's benefit to us for a lot of them too.
Yeah, it is, right, absolutely. Good point. It's a benefit for us as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with doing this right.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. One more fun one. We had a very robust conversation about this in our department heads meeting. So the change is highlighted, or the proposed changes are highlighted. First, and maybe more simple, although we've spent a lot of brain power thinking about this, is that we don't currently allow flip-flops, clogs, Crocs, or other athletic shoes unless medically necessary. And we've had a hard time defining flip-flops because our old definition included many women's sandals. So, again, worked a lot on this and had a lot of headaches over it, but our proposal is to define flip-flops as an open-toed shoe with a strap between the toes or across the bridge of the foot and no raised heel. We have looked at a lot of shoes. We've looked at a lot of definitions of flip-flops. I can't guarantee this is gonna be perfect.
Also, it's no athletic shoes, so no tennis.
That is a separate conversation we should have, and actually you and you've brought that up. Yeah, so Russell might have some things to share that as well. We don't currently allow athletic shoes, and so when this policy was written, athletic shoes were just tennis shoes, right? That's what existed, but now we have all these sneakers, I guess I would call them, that you see with suits, you see with all kinds of things. So Russell brought it up, but I think another department head did too a month ago or so, but should those be included? Should we define those? What? I don't know that you want tennis shoes on a non-casual day, but maybe that's okay.
Yeah, because athletic shoes is such a wide definition now.
Yeah, yeah. And again, this is one of those things where culturally the whole culture has changed. Where are we at? Yeah, I've had an ankle injury for about a year and I've been wearing some really like what I would call casual shoes. And other like administrative staff said, oh, 10 years ago, I got talked to about wearing something similar to that. Right now, mine is medically necessary, but they noticed that was casual, right? So it's something that's out there. They weren't necessarily opposed to it, but maybe definition would be good.
You can begin by saying it's not a flip flop.
It's not a
That's the first order. of business.
athletic shoes are not flip flops. Okay.
However,
I mean, would you like to see?
I don't know.
I mean,
The flip flop definition, I don't know.
That's okay.
I guess that's fine.
I can understand in some departments where flip flops, sandals, whatever the hell you want to call it, it's going to be a safety issue, obviously. That should be a no-brainer. That should be completely common sense, for lack of a better term. I can see in some other departments where maybe that's not a big deal at this point in time, and the whole events of everything else that we're discussing. Once again, to me, that should be a department head decision. Giving them the authority to kind of make that decision. I know it's not going to be perfect, and maybe there has to be a checks and balance in that. Maybe if it's to a regionus, I guess, or something, and it comes back to us and we have to override it or whatever. But it's really the only way you're going to work around it.
So a couple of things. We've had similar conversations, but this business casual attire is specific to an office environment. So this wouldn't be specific to.
But you see, that's
Noxious
again,
food.
not all of our departments are an office environment.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So safety sensitive dress is defined differently, and any type of a safety related job is defined differently. So this particular list.
But it's not defined here, and if we're defining it, don't you have to define that in
We
policy?
do have it in the procedure manual that you haven't seen yet.
Okay.
So yeah, this specific list is really for our office environment. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The second thing, and we've talked about what you suggested, having every department make their own. The problems that we have in that is that it becomes very personal opinion. It also becomes who we like or who is a good employee versus maybe who's not as great of an employee.
That's why you have a checks and balance in there.
And it also is not necessarily an image thing. If we want to say that this is Riley County's professional image and every department has a different level of that, we don't have that professional image. I think that there is a line there at the bottom that says that department heads can
Yeah, I saw it.
yeah, unless otherwise approved by the department head, I think it says. So they could go broader, but this would be our baseline. And there's times, I mean, like election staff has been moving recently, so they were wearing closed-toed tennis shoes, athletic shoes and jeans, and they were moving their office supplies. That is, I think, not a questionable approval. That's appropriate. And it fits within the guidelines. There's other times when, I don't know, Vivian goes out to the field with Russell, then she probably needs to wear closed-toed shoes and.
Well, and I think we need to keep in mind that, like you're talking about, this is office attire, and that should be professional as we deal with the public.
It affects our customer service.
Yeah, it does. And, they can look down and see that you got flip flops, or they make a lot of noise too. So,
that was part of the definition at one time.
Yeah, it almost got back in again. If that makes a flip flap.
Go ahead, I have a couple minutes before I have to leave. Go ahead, my meeting. That might get everyone stirred up just before I leave.
You like to do that.
Or not to take off.
Good morning, commissioners. So we had a meeting until 11:30 yesterday, department head meeting. Over much discussion, the biggest topics were hair scenes, tattoos, and what wasn't even on the agenda was hair color, which hair color was brought up by a female department head, so everyone understands. The first thing I think the commissioners need to think about, and I hope you don't make rash decisions in this, because I'm not a big fan with 15 different department heads and 15 different interpretations of leaving things too open, because then we become less of an organization. We are the organization of Riley County. We have a professional appearance policy right now. It doesn't state that in any of this information, but we're proposing changing from professional appearance to personal appearance. Words matter. That's a huge difference. We just changed to personal time off. Why? Because it is their personal time off. Professional appearance is here while you're at work. And so I would strongly advocate for not changing that. The details of all of this, you know, I am more old-fashioned traditional. I know who I am. I believe along the lengths of Commissioner McKinley's generation, Commissioner Foley's generation, not to pick on you, that's just who I am. The department heads know it. I state how I stand in the department head meetings. I am probably the odd man out on a lot of these. Here's what I didn't think I was, when I took this position, was one of my main responsibilities. That was approving a tattoo, which I did for my first time in the last 2 months. And then also having to be cognizant of where an earring is and the size of an earring. I think I have more important things to do than that. My son works in a professional organization here in town. They address the tattoo thing very easily because we actually talked about tattoos and no one really knew where to draw the line. And they said, okay, I think it was Elizabeth said, okay, Rich, you can be the tattoo player. I said, easy, long sleeves, everyone. And I'm not settled on that, commissioners, but there are more and more things that your department heads, small, trivial things to me, that you're asking us to give our own personal bias on. And like I said, you have 15 of them. Do you think all 15, if you leave the discretion open, are going to agree? It's no secret, you know, how I am in our county. But, you know, even as, for lack of a better word, as strict as some people may think I am, I continue to get applicants from other departments, knowing that we have strict guidelines to follow. And so I just ask you, I would suggest you don't come to a conclusion on this today. There was a direction for a motion yesterday based on what Pot County does, based on what another county does, and some of them are very open. But then we also have in our community, such as RCPD, that don't allow anything at all, but we haven't seen that. And so I haven't come to a conclusion on this. Elizabeth and I differ on some things, but we have open discussions about it, and neither one of us are closed-minded about it yet. But commissioners, this group, including myself, come to you and ask for great wages and great benefits because we are a community with a D1 college, highly educated, and people expect a certain level of service and they expect to see something at a specific level when, whether it's public works staff out on the road or Noxious Weed staff out on the road. And I understand there are different levels. Commissioners, I've worked every level of work in my lifetime that you can. From construction to farming to whatever. I know there are different requirements and different needs. I just ask you to look at this real closely. Don't leave it too open-ended because you won't like what you end up with. If you allow the, you know, there's a common discussion, hair. Hair has come up a lot. You can't say they're natural colored hair, but you can, I contend you can say a natural colored hair. Well, this is my natural hair. I don't know how it got gray. But if you open it up to any color, Mike Bowler's gonna end up with a pink mohawk. So
You might be willing to allow that one too.
yeah. We can see it. $200 if he does it for a month.
Might throw $100 in just.
Right?
Commissioners are the one, previous commissioners, not this commission, that required a professional appearance policy here in Manhattan, here in Riley County, and it became about at a time when we were talking about wages that we wanted, being at the 70th percentile. You know, being able to compete with, you know, City of Manhattan, K-State, RCPD, all of those. We provide a good wage. People expect a certain level of service when they come to our organization. Commissioners used to instill in us, okay, you're going to KAC, you're representing Riley County. You better look more like John when you're at that meeting in his attire right now. You're representing Riley County, not just yourself.
Well, he's got the right tie on today, okay?
I just ask you guys to think about that stuff. It's a big word change from personal appearance in your policy to professional appearance. When we just said personal time off, that is their personal time off away from the organization. Sorry, commissioners, I have to go. Get everyone stirred up.
Mike's drop, I'm out.
I could have a lot more to discuss, but I got a training at 11, so thank you.
Yeah, so his concerns, I don't think are much about the flip flops. But we have talked a lot about this jewelry, tattoos, piercings, this whole section. And I don't necessarily think anything Rich said is wrong. And I also need to figure out where the line is culturally. Where are we culturally? Where were we when this was written in 2012? And where are we now? Where is our workforce? Where are our customers? What are they used to seeing and what are they comfortable seeing? And how are we going to continue to fill our jobs? So that's where we need to figure out where the line is. This is the wording that we talked about yesterday that is inclusive of the Potawatomi County and Manhattan Public Library, and then things that came into discussion with the department heads. To be honest, only this part is really what Potawatomi County and Manhattan Library have. They don't have all of this verbiage, which I don't know if we need it, if we want it. I don't know. There was some serious concern about this down here after the conversation, because we have several employees already who have a tattoo like right behind their ear. And it's a small like flower, I don't know if you guys have seen, small thing that wouldn't have noticed at all, but if they wear their hair up, do we allow them to cover that? Do we allow them not allowed to be hired?
How do you cover that?
I guess a Band-Aid, I guess, which is not pleasant, I gotta tell you. That's what we did in retail 20 years ago.
It's worse.
It is worse. Yeah, so 20 years ago, I worked in retail and I had to put a Band-Aid on my nose ring. And I think, particularly in this day and age, that would be much worse. We're a little bit more sensitive to that kind of stuff. Yeah, and it's people worry about what happened to you. So the one thing that I liked in this is that basically this part says it's not a problem until it becomes a problem, and then the department head needs to figure it out with the employee. So we're saying, as long as it doesn't interfere with your ability to perform your job, and as long as it's not offensive or harassing, and no one, customers or whoever we do business with, isn't offended by it, then it's not an issue. And as soon as we have that issue come up, it depends on the department head to say, okay, is this a personal, completely off base complaint, or is this representative of a group of people who would generally be offended by this? And then they can remove it, they can cover it, or the supervisor and employee can identify another appropriate option, depending on where they work.
There's a sentence in here, under the jewelry thing, says, if jewelry or tattoos present a conflict, the employer will be asked to remove excess jewelry, and to identify appropriate options. I guess, what kind of a conflict are we talking about? Is that a conflict with the customer or a conflict within the department, or? Well,
yes. So if, for example, I have a tattoo that is a Christian cross here, and another employee finds that offensive because of whatever their religion is or not is, then they would take that to the department head, and there would be a conversation. Okay, is this a legitimate conflict or not? Does this prohibit you from doing your job? If so, If it is something, that is appropriate, then they either wear long sleeves or they cover it or they do whatever is appropriate, what they decide at that point. It could be a customer says, hey, Donna, supervisor, I'm not comfortable with this person who has a gauge in their earring, and then Sharon and Donna would talk about that and decide whether it's appropriate. But at this point, you already have customer service facing employees with tattoos, with ear piercings, with face piercings. And you're not, Shiloh announced yesterday in 10 years as a treasurer, she's never had a complaint. And I think you guys have 3 or 4 front facing.
And actually, I'd like to speak to that because just this morning, Katie, who sits at window number 1, she had a customer come in and the customer commented on her tattoos and she said, I'm really grateful that you guys get to have this expression. Like you come into a government building and you expect everything to be so tight. She said, I feel really relaxed in here. And not because her customer service, she didn't receive good customer. She just felt that's a person helping me that also gets to express themselves a little bit. And I thought today of all days, it was kind of, as I was rounding the corner to hear that, I was like, oh, let me just take this in for a second. Because Donna and I are here to represent Shiloh because she's out.
And that's the issue we have. The self-expression in our culture is completely different. There's a completely different attitude about us than there was 12 years ago when this was written. Or even in 2019. I mean, it's a different attitude. And we see people all the time, everywhere. And these things, in my opinion, from HR don't affect their ability to do their job.
But they do affect and reflect on the organization as a whole, though.
But is
And
that
that's-
negative necessarily?
Maybe not in all cases, but maybe in some. And it's, you still got to look. I mean, what are we trying to achieve here at Riley County too?
Yeah.
I mean, and as mentioned, and I do tend to agree with Rich on this, there's a high expectation here, higher than most places. And it's not just the service we provide, it's how we're providing that. And that's part of it too. We hear that. We
Sure.
hear that.
I agree. And where is that? I don't think it's at 0.
I think it's the excessive use of these things that is the problem, more than anything. Is if you have 6 face piercings, that's going to present a problem with the public, or I think it's an excessive use. Not necessarily, just a personal expression.
I don't want to stop.
Oh, okay.
No, I was just going to say, because it actually relates to that. I was telling Elizabeth this just based on the discussion that I was able to listen into yesterday, but couldn't get my microphone to work on my computer.
They turned it off.
Yeah. I don't think they were disappointed. I don't think this department didn't have Bob was about it, but I actually had to go to a physician's office yesterday afternoon. I had a scheduled appointment late in the afternoon. And the person who was at reception had multiple piercings, was dressed very nice, very well presented themselves, and customer service was outstanding. And it was after this discussion. And I will admit that 12 years ago, because I think largely because of my demographic, I was born in 1956, do the math.
Silent two things.
Silently.
But 12 years ago, that would have seemed odd but how many of us go to a fast food place now, if somebody has a visible tattoo or multiple piercings, how many of us really are put off by that? I don't know how many are, because I'm not anymore. I'm so used to seeing it. And what matters to me is, how does that person perform their job?
But what I expect at McDonald's is not what I expected.
Exactly.
Well, but even but I was in the most professional of offices you could be in.
You're saying what you see when you enter.
And that's,
I'm not expecting the same.
no, but again, it didn't put me off at all, because you're seeing it everywhere. And in a professional office as well. What could be more professional than a doctor's office? And the frontline perception point where you're checking people in, I'm not convinced that's turning people away or making them think, well, this isn't a professional office. I think our policy in some way we would be well served as an organization to recognize that a policy that was perfectly okay 12 years ago needs some tweaking at least, because people do expect different things in terms of even the definition of professional. The key isn't whether we, to me, the key isn't whether we call this professional or personal. Because this isn't about really about, I would say this isn't about personal expression. It's whether this is good for the organization or not. And whether it's going to impede us from hiring people, from keeping people. I mean, those are the things that really matter, I think, to the organization and to the public, whether they articulate that or not. And I don't think we're getting a rash of complaints, even though we're getting different style statements from people than we did 12 years ago. And that's a personal thing, but it's not affecting performance, or we'd be hearing about it. I mean, department heads, the department heads that manage those people would be hearing about it. That's the most natural place. And I'm not saying you don't get complaints, or I'm not saying it isn't off-putting sometimes if somebody has, I could imagine situations where some of these things are gonna, that's why I'm kind of glad that even though originally I would have thought, just from a legal standpoint, if you start saying things like, well, what's offensive or not, but there is the ability to judge whether or not something is offensive in terms of a tattoo statement. You can imagine examples. Somebody has I'm just gonna throw this out there. And I hope nobody has one of these right now that's visible, because I'm using it as an example only. If somebody had a tattoo, and let's say this, it's across their face, okay? And I've worked in situations where people had tattoos, like I've had one example I used, but I had a client once who had an organization did who had a tattoo of a scorpion across their face. But if you had, say, a slogan across your forehead that said "From the river to the sea," these days, that means something. And that means something that somebody could easily say, well, that's really offensive. And you can wear a hat now because your performance is good, but you are not going to display that, because we have customers that are going to come in and see that slogan as an encouragement for genocide. And I'm just saying, we can come up with extreme examples.
Surely.
And we can come up with examples that would be, in my view, defensible if you have a policy that even says there's going to be some discretion on the part of the department head.
And just to Catherine's point, you currently have at least 3 department heads who have visible tattoos that have not been, I mean, no one has complained about their tattoos, or maybe they've complained about other things. I've had my nose pierced since long before I started working here, and I'm sure you've gotten complaints about me, but I don't know that it was related to my nose piercing. And I don't think I would have acted differently with or without it. So I'm not saying that you have to do it specifically because I do or some department head does, but you're already doing these things, like you're already allowing them. But it's not our policy, and then it's all kind of gray and unclear of who's doing what.
So we have a couple.
Yeah, just real quick, at the health department, I know we have quite a few who have a nose piercing or visible tattoo, and it doesn't hinder their ability to be professional. All my staff is very professional. We survey a lot. We do all sorts of surveys with our customer satisfaction. That's never once come up. So yeah, I have no doubt they're still able to be professional. And I agree there has to be a line, but yeah.
And just to be clear, I'm not saying it shouldn't be changed to professional.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying an argument can be made that good portions of this do describe what now can legitimately be viewed, if the organization wants to do it, as professional.
The personal came about from our.
Okay, I'm gonna have to stop you because we're at 11 o'clock.
Wasn't, yeah. So, all right, well, anything you want me to do differently?
It sounds like to me on this one, we need to have 2 separate conversations at this point. Let's get through everything else that we need to get through on this. And this is probably going to need to be a separate conversation for the topic.
Yes.
Because you've got a whole list of other things that we need to get through. Let's get through that in a conversation, and then let's get through this.
Yeah, some of those are a lot easier. Yeah. Okay, I will bring the others and we'll see what we can do.
And we gotta listen to you again?
I'll give you back.
What could be?
Should listen to emergency.
No, I agree, that's. Something short.
Good morning, commissioners. This is again, as the card indicates, simply a resolution extending for consideration, resolution potentially extending the current local emergency, local disaster emergency declaration. Never get the order. The current one that was issued by appropriately and under the state statute by the chairman on April 1st. Actually, those by statute, they can only last 7 days. And then, as the card indicates, that means this one, unless it's extended, expires by midnight next Sunday night or midnight next Sunday morning. Anything. But the key is it will expire before your next meeting. And that has some potential impacts on the ability, certainly of the state to say, because one of the key components of having this is to be able to get state resources, potentially maybe some state financial assistance at some point, potentially, for things related to this cybersecurity incident. And so I don't think we want to leave that gap. You could let it do that. You could let the local disaster declaration expire, but the state statute gives the ability to go ahead and extend it. It also does not have an outer limit on how far such an extension would go. It doesn't have to be 7 days. It could be whatever's reasonable. That's why I asked emergency management to weigh in with what they think is reasonable given the current circumstances. And no matter what date you pick, if it turns out it needs to be extended from that, you just simply, as a board, and here's where the chairperson cannot do it unless it were a different emergency. From here on out, after you do that first one by the chairman, it has to be the board that decides. It has to be at least 2 of you in a regular public meeting or a special meeting. It's called. You would have. I know that's more information than you really need, but that's why it's being presented to me. I left it blank so that Russell can give his input potentially on how long he thinks it's reasonable to extend this to.
And just for the record, I know more about this process than I probably want to because of COVID, but.
Morning, commissioners. I would recommend going until at least next Thursday. Till the next Thursday commission meeting. I don't see us being done with the state resources and by any time Monday. So, but potentially by next Thursday.
So,
Well, if we extend it to Friday, so we could, if we needed to, we could adjust on Thursday.
Or, yeah, whatever.
that'd be legit.
So we got to run it up to the last day.
Either way.
I might suggest extending it past that next Monday meeting, just in case.
Yeah, that's what I mean, a week from today.
I'm talking the Monday,
Either way.
just in case.
Here's your check.
At a minimum.
What date is that?
At a minimum, I would go.
15.
At a minimum, I would go a week from today. If you wanted to take it on to the following Monday, I have no issue.
Right. Because then if something happens, we don't have to call another special meeting.
Right.
Okay.
And that kind of covers the weekend too, in case something
Something doesn't fall into line there and it gives us a little extra time.
Right.
Okay.
April 15th.
Well, this-
Nothing important on that day.
Yeah.
The IRS.
IRS, yeah.
Can you just fill that in? Once we know,
I was gonna say,
once we know.
do we know for sure?
So the next would be, Friday would be the 12th, the 15th would be the middle fire. 15th.
we extend the emergency declaration through April 15th.
I would second that.
And moved and seconded to extend the county declaration of local disaster to April 15th. So,
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Did you have anything else?
No idea.
Okay.
Shall we move David up?
No.
Got all the funds?
Go ahead, David.
Go ahead, John. Okay. I wondered about that. Morning, Commissioners. David Adams, EMS Senior Director. I'm here for an out-of-state travel request on behalf of the Kansas EMS Association to attend the NAEMT Day on the Hill in Washington, DC. The purpose of the trip is to discuss federal legislation which will directly impact emergency medical services in Kansas. I've done this before. It's completely funded by the EMS Association, so there's no out-of-pocket cost to the county. However, if there were to be, it is, I do have this in my budget. So, but everything is taken care of by them, including meals and any transportation or anything while we're in DC. So I will be flying out of Kansas City that Wednesday morning. Then Day on the Hill is Thursday. And then we fly back Friday morning. So
It's a lot of packed in.
yeah, you get there. I think we get there Wednesday about 11 in the morning. We have meetings, the pre-meetings starting at like 3, and then supper, then more meetings. Then the next day you're gone all day. You get back, you fly out the next morning. So there's not even much for some people.
Not tourism.
No, some people will take a vacation day and fly a day earlier to tour, but I tried that one time and it was raining and cold the whole time. So
Yeah.
good idea to do it. So.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, it's your turn, I think.
Well, I moved to approve the out-of-state travel request for David Adams.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the out-of-state request for David Adams in the EMS department. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
I have a question for you again.
Okay.
For you, not for you to spend my meeting's done.
Okay.
I'm gonna stay around a minute.
Yeah.
And John, while you're here, I need to talk to you too.
Oh, okay,
So,
I've just got 5 minutes.
okay, that's fine. Absolutely.
And that concludes everything on our agenda this morning. Does anybody have anything else?
I didn't have any.
No,
Covered
I
everything?
talked about what I had earlier, so. I would make a motion to adjourn the April 4th meeting of the Board of Riley County Commissioners.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn the April 4th meeting of the Riley County Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. Guess we don't have IT, so shut us down, I guess.
We jumped early. So
Yeah, that's all right. I think
True.
What